This is the ZNS Network, providing radio and high-definition television services for the entire Bahamas. ZNS Network is operated by the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas. It is located at Harcourt Rusty Bethel Drive, Centerville, Nassau. Our programming is designed to inform, educate, and entertain. We invite you to join us.
The following is the preamble of the Constitution of the Bahamas, which was made on June 20th, 1973, and came into operation July 10th, 1973.
Whereas 481 years ago, the rediscovery of this family of islands, rocks and keys, heralded the rebirth of the New World. And whereas the people of this family of islands, recognizing that the preservation of their freedom will be guaranteed by a national commitment to self-discipline, industry, loyalty, unity, and an abiding respect for Christian values and the rule of law. Now, know we therefore, we the inheritors of and successors to this family of islands, recognizing the supremacy of God and believing in the fundamental rights and freedoms of the individual, do hereby proclaim in solemn praise the establishment of a free and democratic sovereign nation, founded on spiritual values, and in which no man, woman, or child shall ever be slave or bondsman to anyone, or their labor exploited, or their lives frustrated by deprivation, and do hereby provide by these articles for the indivisible unity and creation under God of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Our COVID-19 confirmed deaths are 6.4 times more likely to have comorbidities or underlying medical conditions.
We aren't looking for no confrontation from anybody. We want to keep the Bahamian people safe.
Anytime you have Bahamians stuck abroad, that is a concern for us.
The Bahamas will have more COVID-19 cases, but the hope is they're not as severe as they have been. And this as the country heads into another weekend lockdown. Good morning, everyone. I'm Akush Lapinder with your morning edition. Some 26 additional COVID-19 cases averted during the Easter holiday lockdown. When you consider the fact that heading into Palm Sunday, there was exponential increase in cases, health officials would admit that this in itself is a feat. But after weeks of lockdowns, Bahamians have long grown wary, with the biggest question being, when will it end? To that, here's what consultant and former Chief Medical Officer Dr. Mercelin Dow-Regis had to say.
If we continue with what we're doing now, the social distancing, the avoidance of gatherings, we should follow the yellow line. If we don't, and we increase our cases by 2 per day, we would follow the middle line. And if we have a rapid increase in our cases, you can see, look to the left, the ordinate, you would see the number of cases we will have 60 days out from here.
Now, based on the model's worst-case scenario, puts the number of cases at that point at well over 100. But health officials are hoping for an intervention, one that will cause that yellow line Dow-Regis speaks about to dip lower. And that, of course, calls for compliance.
Although we might have more cases, when you test more, you identify more cases. But what we are looking at, what we think is critical, is that we don't have very sick cases that overwhelm our health facilities. And we also identify folks and save lives. And that is one of the reasons why we are targeting the elder care grouping as a priority group, because we're looking at projections everywhere, all over the world, and we see that this group was particularly vulnerable, so I'm not able to give you what the projected timetable, but if we're looking at 66 days out, that's mid-May. If we look at what we might achieve, we truly hope it's under the less than 160.
Well, ramped-up testing will target those in assisted living homes, healthcare workers, and the prison. The ultimate goal is to get a clearer representation of what's taking place here. Now, if you're a Family Island resident with no confirmed cases of the illness, the prospect of those communities being exempted from a 24-hour curfew is promising. Here's Health Minister, the Honorable Dr. Dwayne Sands.
The signals that we're getting from the Family Islands are positive. Those signals are being assessed on a daily basis, and the recommendations coming from our technical teams are being considered, and a determination will be made as to when to relax the lockdowns, the restriction of movement in these communities. If this is sustained over the next few days, I believe that we will be able to pull the trigger on some of these decisions. But the signals need to be sustained over a period of time in order to assure that the trajectory continues. We have been fortunate. The decisions made were done in a timely fashion, and thus far it appears to be having, at least in those communities, and even in New Providence and Grand Bahama, some positive impact. So it shouldn't be too much longer.
Well, it was during Thursday's press conference that officials confirmed an additional case as well as an additional death, now the 9th.
Out of these 9 persons who died had comorbidities or underlying illnesses. 4 out of the 9, or 44.4% of these patients were obese. 3 out of the 9, or 33%, of the cases suffered from high blood pressure. 2 out of the 9, or 22%, experienced asthma. And 1 out of 9, or 11%, of the cases suffered from either sleep apnea, high lipids in the blood, kidney failure, and diabetes. There are 5 males and 4 females. 1 of the deceased is from Bimini, 5 from New Providence, and 2 from Grand Bahama. My fellow Bahamians, it's a fact that as of April 16th, our COVID-19 confirmed deaths are 6.4 times more likely to have comorbidities or underlying medical conditions.
According to Dr. Sands, at last report, 892 contacts had been identified through contact tracing. Now, while the Bahamas instituted RT-PCR testing as the so-called gold standard, and this considering it doesn't give false negatives, it is exploring the introduction of rapid testing.
It is confirmed that although rapid tests give faster results at cheaper prices, they are often inaccurate. Since all of the many types of these tests have not yet been internationally validated, the Ministry of Health is only now exploring this method and is not using it as a confirmatory test at this time. Once our validation process is completed, and if these tests are found to correlate with our gold standard RT-PCR method, wider screening for COVID-19 at the community level will commence. There are 10,000 rapid test kits in country.
Meantime, there's a downward trend in crime as law enforcement officers remain on high alert under the COVID-19 climate. And once again, the police will be pulling out all stops tonight as the country goes into lockdown. Betty Thompson-Mall speaks to the new commissioner on the expectations.
The Bahamian society is preparing for another weekend lockdown. The emergency protocol will once again be closely monitored by the Royal Bahamas Police Force. As the clock ticks, Commissioner Paul Roll is giving this assurance.
We are going to be setting up our roadblocks again, and we'll be stopping everybody And I want people to understand that during a lockdown, which means that nobody should be on the road, and it is really in the hand of the Commissioner of Police to ensure that persons that are on the road have legitimate reason to be on the road.
If you must move around, the required documents will once again be necessary to present to an officer.
We're not looking for no confrontation from anybody. We want to keep the Bahamian people safe, and I want to commend my officers for the good job that they have been doing, the sacrifices they continue to make. We've been out there around the clock to make sure that everybody are safe during this most difficult period.
Now, while those checkpoints generally went without incidents, allegations were made against officers.
I received 2 complaints from members of the public regarding the conduct of officers and the way officers had reacted with them. And where we find that persons in breach, we'll be taking the disciplinary action against them. We try to encourage them not to react, but we also ask members of the public to be considerate and just simply answer the questions and not to aggravate the officer in any way.
The Commissioner of Police also had to give permission for special flights into Abaco during the 5-day lockdown and an emergency mailboat movement, but he says investigations are underway into an illegal flight.
And I met with the persons from the U.S. Embassy, and I lodged a complaint where a charter came in, aircraft came in from Fort Lauderdale, flew into Grand Bahama, was not authorized to land, and they still went ahead and land, picked up persons, and returned to Fort Lauderdale. That matter is being investigated right now by the FAA and the local authorities here in the Bahamas.
Now, during the current 24-hour curfew, threats and arrests were made.
You don't threaten your police, and certainly I'm not going to sit by and allow anybody to threaten me, my officers, or the institutions in this country. I've had a couple of those. We've taken persons into custody, and I encourage people, don't do things like that. Because if you do it, we are going to take action against you. And we are a society based on laws.
The new Commissioner of Police is also making this appeal to the wider Bahamian society.
There are some people who know that their loved ones have guns, and I'm going to ask them to put down the guns. If they want to bring the guns in, they can come and bring the gun. I'll be more than happy to take their gun from them in a voluntary manner, or the same, if they want to not give it to us in a voluntary manner, I'll be happy to do that too. But we are going to ensure the safety of all, including the criminals. We'll ensure their safety, even if it has to be in Foxhill.
For the morning edition, I'm Betty Thompson-Moss.
Coming up, a look at what tourism officials are up against in terms of jump-starting the economy coming out of this global pandemic. You're watching the morning edition. That and more when we return.
Public service announcement is brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
School is closed, but we are not on vacation. Remember to stay at home to avoid the spread of COVID-19. Social distancing is very important. Remember, it's safer and smarter.
This public service announcement was brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
When you respond to the word of God and you begin to speak the word of God and you begin to live the word of God and you begin to act out on the word of God, you will find that there will be a transformed life. And when there is a transformed life, there will be a transformed home. And when there's a transformed home, there'll be a transformed church. And when there's a transformed church, there'll be a transformed community. I'm telling you, you have to respond to the word.
This public service announcement is brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
School is closed, but we are not on vacation. We are staying at home to ensure we remain healthy and prevent the spread of COVID-19. Remember to regularly and thoroughly wash hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Maintain a safe distance between you and someone else with a cough or sneeze. Remember, it's safer and smarter.
This public service announcement was brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
Domestic tourism could very well be a key focus for the #1 industry, considering the global market's been impacted by the pandemic. Minister of Tourism and Aviation, the Honorable Dionisio Diaglo, says the Bahamas will have to become more creative to jumpstart the tourism sector, as hotels are now empty and previously bustling tourist hotspots now deserted.
We are going to have to develop, as we are with other light industries, we have to develop our domestic economy. We have to, if people are afraid to travel overseas, travel in your own country, go back and visit your family, obviously when our surge is done with. So we have to be creative in getting money to circulate and getting some sort of tourism off the ground. We obviously need to bring in foreign currency. We obviously need to bring as many foreign visitors as we can to the country to improve our economic situation. As it relates to domestic travel, I'm sure that numbers will be down and market forces will determine lowering of prices in order to allow people to travel to try to build up traffic. But we have to figure out how a business could operate, a hotel, a restaurant, in this new norm.
Well, over in Grand Bahama, some hotels are still operating, but they say safety is their #1 priority during this period. Atalia Hall has the story.
Businesses in most countries across the world have come to a halt due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and it is no different here in the Bahamas. Many hotels across the country have had to close their doors, and in some instances, some Bahamians employed at those hotels lost their jobs. Here in Grand Bahama, some hotels are still open for business, but there are limitations. At the Pelican Bay Resort, General Manager Magnus Alnebeck says, at this time, there are only 3 rooms occupied at the resort, and those occupants are corporate guests.
Those guests are all well. We are not taking bookings unless it is that type of guest. it is somebody who needs to be here for essential work, that is the type of bookings we are taking. And obviously, Sabor and Bones is closed. We are doing some limited takeout from Sabor. And doing that in accordance to demand and obviously following all rules and protocol that the government has put in place for us.
He says cleaning efforts increased throughout the resort, and they are now taking this time to prepare for when the country reopens.
We have basically shut down 3 buildings totally. We have taken the opportunity of doing some work that is normally very difficult to do when the hotel is open. We have, for example, flooded the whole hotel with pest control spraying. We have shut down our cooling towers and done some serious maintenance and delining of those. So we are doing the work that we are allowed to do in making sure that the hotel will be as ready as possible when we will be able to.
Bell Channel Inn is still open, but only for guests who were staying at the hotel before the emergency orders were put into effect.
We have only 10% occupancy. So they're still, but we are not taking new guests in. We don't really feel that it's safe for the staff here to go and clean the rooms and do the laundry. So we want to limit the exposure. So it's only 10% occupancy.
Manager Lisbeth Knoll says the restaurant is still open for business, but for takeout only, and persons can call in their order.
We'll call them when it's ready. We will ask them how they will pay, credit card or cash, and we will bring the change or the credit card machine down to the car. They pull up in front of the lobby, and we bring them the food to the car.
Over at the Taino Beach Resort, according to an employee, there are no guests and the resort is closed. The Royal Islander Hotel occupancy level is at 17% and is open to the public, but persons must have all of the necessary protective gear. Management says the hotel is also doing their part to ensure that cleaning is done around the clock. Now, we also spoke with an employee at the Old Bahama Bay Resort who says they are closed and do not have any guests at this time. Italia Hall, ZNS Network News.
At last report, over 100 Bahamians who are stranded in Florida and other parts of the United States due to the border closure. The Minister of Tourism says there have been discussions at the cabinet level about bringing those Bahamians home.
Anytime you have Bahamians stuck abroad, that is a concern for us. Obviously, that's being balanced with the health concerns and the fact that we have an order in place that nobody can come into the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. But it's a concern, and trust me, it's gut-wrenching. And we are grappling with this each and every day, trying to balance the concerns of our citizens that are in the United States who want to come home, and our health concerns, making sure that we keep the 400,000 Bahamians that are here safe and healthy.
This morning, we focus our attention on the COVID-19 virus and the health of our eyes. Joining us this morning is Dr. Dawn Russell-Hermans, Director of the Division of Ophthalmology and consultant at the Princess Margaret Hospital. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi.
Hi. Is there any truth, let's begin with this, is there any truth with the notion that COVID can be passed on through the eyes?
Yes, there have been reports and articles published, very rarely, but it has been found in the tears. And so if you happen to come in contact with the tears of an infected individual, it can be spread. And so the recommendations for us as eye care specialists are to definitely protect our eyes and, of course, the nose and the mouth.
Now, in response to that, what changes have ophthalmologists made?
So we have completely modified the entire way that we practice. And just in terms of how the patients are booked, we're not seeing any elective cases. We're not seeing any routine cases. We're only strictly seeing emergencies and doing emergency surgery. And so before a patient even comes to our office or to the hospital, we screen them for any symptoms of COVID, any upper respiratory tract infection. Once we've cleared that they don't have any infection, once they come into the clinic or into any eye care center, we make sure that they either have their face covered with a face mask such as this, because we come in very close proximity to these patients when we're examining them. And myself and other colleagues, we also protect ourselves. I would usually have on a mask and as well eye protection or I've been using face shields to cover whenever I examine a patient.
Now, you speak of emergencies. What are true eye emergencies?
So true eye emergencies are those that are vision threatening. So any sudden loss of vision, any sudden onset of floaters or flashing lights, any sort of sudden onset of pain in your eyes, double vision, those are the things that would prompt you to call in for an emergency eye exam.
Well, that said, what can Bahamians do to safeguard themselves at home in this regard?
So firstly, anybody who has a diagnosed eye condition and is on eye medication, we would want them to stock up with at least two months supply of eye drops. And just like in any other situation, like we advise them, whenever you put your eye drops in, make sure that your hands are clean. The other things that we advise as well are that they pay attention to blood sugar levels, blood pressure levels, those things. Stay healthy, eat healthy. This is not the time to binge or eat on junk food. You want to keep things under control to prevent you going into an eye emergency.
Apart from that, what are some other home conditions that we can do to maintain good eye health?
Okay, so there are several home conditions that we're things that you can do at home that we're advising patients to do if you have common eye things like a sty or like a little cyst on your eye. If you have that develop, you can do just warm compresses or get a clean towel, put it in warm water and apply it to the lid or to the area where the sty is, just to help open up the pores and help it to drain. If you happen to get a black eye, provided you haven't had any vision loss or there's not any significant pain, you can do ice packs to that eye. If you have eye allergies, try to keep the windows closed, stay away from fans. And these are just home things that you can do to prevent things getting to the point where you need to be seen in hospital or in the eye care center.
Any parting words for your patients or any other concerns you want to note at this time?
Well, what I want to emphasize to all of the Bahamian patients are just to stay safe, stay inside. And I usually tell my patients, just remember RSVP, like if you were to reply to an invitation. RSVP meaning R, if you have redness, call us. If you have any swelling, call us. If you have any changes in vision, give us a call. And lastly, P for the RSVP, if you have any pain in your eyes, to call, because that's an easy way for patients to remember the key things that would prompt you to come in to see us during this time.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Russell Hermans, for joining us on the Morning Edition.
Thank you so much for having me. God bless.
Influenza, or the flu as it is commonly called, is a viral illness that usually occurs between the months October to March. The virus is transmitted from person to person through coughing, sneezing, or talking. Symptoms include fever, cough, headache, runny nose, generalized body aches, and fatigue. There is no specific treatment for the flu, and the symptoms usually dissipate after 3 to 7 days. Because it is caused by a virus, antibiotics are not used to treat the flu. Persons are encouraged to rest and drink lots of fluids. Panadol is recommended for fever and body aches associated with the flu. However, aspirin should be avoided due to the risk of bleeding. To decrease the spread of flu, persons are encouraged to get their flu shot annually and practice good cough hygiene. Additional information can be provided by your community clinic or the Health Education Division at the Ministry of Health. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Health in partnership with the Public Hospitals Authority.
This public service announcement is brought to you by the Communications Section of the Ministry of Education in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
Hey, where are we all going? We're on our way to the mall. I'm so glad we got this entire month off. I'm going to enjoy this vacation.
I know what you mean. Every day, I plan to go out and enjoy myself. The movies, the mall.
We just came from the movies.
Don't forget, we're going downtown tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Y'all gotta be joking. You all realize this ain't a vacation, right? This is a global pandemic.
We're supposed to stay at home, you know? That's the reason school was closed, to stop the spread of the coronavirus.
Plus, we still gotta prepare for our BJCs and BGCSE examinations. Y'all realize it's still happening, right?
I don't know about the two of you, but I need to be prepared.
Well, I plan on using this quarantine time to stay at home and review for my exams.
What is there to review? I have already finished all my homework.
You don't get it? Hey, we still gotta review our notes and stuff.
And we still have a lot of chapters to read in the textbook.
You know what? The two of you are actually making a lot of sense. We should stay home and use our time to review our notes.
And avoid catching and spreading the coronavirus.
Remember, it is safer and smarter.
This public service announcement was brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, your hottest place on the planet for rims, tints, tires, and auto sales. We are your auto superstore. Rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Track Lights, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires. Cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king. Blessed luck.
Abuse, domestic violence, suicidal tendencies. Are you being stressed out from these problems? Call the national hotline at 422-2763 or 322-2763. There are trained social workers available 24 hours to help you. Know that you are not alone in this.
Well, if you think finding disinfectants somewhat of a pain, try hand sanitizers, one of those items that have certainly become a rare commodity in a COVID-19 environment. But a local company is looking to fulfill the needs of many and is making its own. Charles Fisher has the story.
Known for distilling alcohol of a different kind, Bahamian Spirits is transforming, so to speak, to provide a crucial ingredient that has become scarce on the local market. Pep and Aga Masilla, co-founder of John Watling's distillery, on how this idea came about.
A lot of the alcohol manufacturers around the world, I believe there's around 600 distilleries worldwide that have transferred their operations over from making alcohol, over from making spirits, over to making hand sanitizers due to the shortage around the world. So when we saw that on Facebook, we instantly said, okay, let's get the Bahamas its own hand sanitizer. We knew that you couldn't pick it up at the local pharmacy or at the supermarkets. So we basically started looking for the ingredients here, and we were lucky that we found almost all of the ingredients here on island, except for the glycerin, which we brought through the United States. But I believe this morning somebody contacted me that has glycerin here in the Bahamas. So hopefully we'll be able to make this product 100% out of Bahamian materials.
So just how does this conversion process works?
In order to make the hand sanitizer, it's basically 70% alcohol. Okay, so we know how to do that. And then it has hydrogen peroxide, which we source locally, the glycerin, which is used as a moisturizer because the alcohol can be really rough on your hands. And if it creates lesions in your hands, if it dries it out, the virus can get in through there. So you need the glycerin as a moisturizer. So I want to make it clear that you cannot drink this stuff, even though it has alcohol in it.
With such a demand for the product, how has production been?
It's been crazy. We had a lot of responses through Facebook, a lot of responses through the newspaper today, through the Tribune. Again, I think everybody is in need of this. We can't get it through the United States. The thought that, we as the Bahamas needs to be a little bit more independent in what we need to survive within catastrophes like this. I feel great to be able to provide something that is hopefully going to do its part to stop this disease from spreading. You can't feel but great about it.
Now, lots of persons may be asking, where can they purchase these Bahamian-made health products?
We're not going to be selling directly to the public. We're going through Bahamas Medical Supplies, which basically you can find their information on our Facebook page or within the different press releases that have come out. They're going to be supplying the pharmacies and the supermarkets and all the different grocery stores, et cetera, to be able to get the product out there. Right now, we're producing around, I would say, around 3,000, 4,000 bottles a day. We probably have orders for around 30,000 bottles right now, so it's going to take a little bit of time to fill the pipeline, but it will be going out. You know, the first thing really is to get the hospitals taken care of. And then after that, begin to put it within Super Value, put it within the different pharmacies and grocery stores.
For the Morning Edition, I'm Charles Fisher.
Well, Bahamians living abroad are helping those of us back home gain a better understanding of their COVID-19 prevention methods. Lloyd Allen spoke with a Bahamian living in France and working as an education consultant. He has been on lockdown for more than a month.
And continuing with our look at Bahamians outside of our borders on the international front facing this issue of COVID-19. This morning, we're speaking with Kyle Dorset. He's located in the area of Paris, the city. Good morning, Kyle. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm great. Now, I know that you've been there for several years. You're an education policy consultant. Talk to us about how long the lockdown has durated there in Paris.
The lockdown has lasted for, tomorrow will make a month. It shut down on March 17th. So it's been about a month now. And it's expected to go until May 11th.
So paint a picture for us. Obviously, when we talk about a lockdown, is it a 24-hour lockdown, partial day lockdown? How is it for you?
Well, it's a lockdown in the sense that, excuse me, it's a lockdown in the sense that it is, you only have an hour to go outside. And you have to walk outside with a form that states where you're going and why you're going. So if you're going to the food store, you have to say where you're going and why. And then if you're stopped by the police, you have to show it. You have to show them that, and plus your ID. If not, you could be fined. So sometimes if you want to go for a run, you have to have that form with you at all times. They only have a few ways for you. There are only a few options for you to actually go outside. So either you're going to the food store, or you're going to the pharmacy, or if you're sick, you got to go to the hospital, or you can go for a run. But that's about it.
Now, I'm not very familiar with the region that you are in, the region of Paris, but talk to us about the region where you live and also on your journey to the food store. What do you normally see outside of the COVID environment, and how has that transformed since the lockdown?
Well, normally when I'm going to the food store, which is about a 10-minute walk from where I live, it's usually, the city's quite bustling. There's a lot of people, a lot of cars, and you have a lot of children around, and it's a bit noisy. But now, because of the lockdown, it is empty. It looks like a ghost town, and I'm very cautious. You know, you have to think twice about what you touch, and you have to keep distance from people. So if you go in the pharmacy, there's actually a long line outside the pharmacy. If you go to the food store, there's a long line. You have to wait, and it's encouraged that you keep your distance. So we try to practice social distancing, but it's a bit, it's very different from what I'm used to.
Now, I know another concern that I haven't heard a lot on the local or international front, a major issue for us black men. Obviously, you want to take care of your grooming and get your haircut. These sort of things are considered, most people don't see, but it's a very important aspect of staying looking good, especially for someone who has a professional job. You, of course, being in a profession where that's required, and of course, with ongoing virtual meetings. How do you make your way around keeping groomed and looking your best?
It is, I'm glad you asked that question. It is a daily struggle because when I meet with clients, now I have to try my best to brush my hair, to comb my hair. It is really hard because I haven't been to the barber in a month. And so it's quite problematic and stuff. So most of the clients, they all know and stuff because I might be a little scruffy on the online, but my client might be scruffy as well. And so we kind of understand that it's a bit of a rough situation, but usually I would maybe wear, if I'm meeting a client, I'll wear a shirt and tie and, try to look as professional as possible. It isn't easy now, but as soon as this lockdown is over, the first place I'm going to go is to the barber.
Excellent. Now, of course, one of the biggest questions coming in from around the world, how and when do we get back to normalcy? What are you hearing from officials there in France as to the road back to normalcy? What are some of those things that have to happen there?
Well, the president, Emmanuel Macron, he gave a speech a few days ago, and he said that we're going to open in stages the economy again. So on May 11th, there's going to be a partial opening. So schools will be, primary schools and high schools will be open, but universities will remain closed, and a lot of businesses will remain closed.
Well, hoping for the best, but definitely prepared for the worst. Kyle Dorsett, thank you so much for speaking with us all the way from France.
Thank you very much.
Lloyd Allen for the Morning Edition.
Well, COVID-19 forcing a further postponement of the National Service of Remembrance initially scheduled for March 28th over in Dundastown, Abaco. Disaster Reconstruction Authority Director Catherine Forbes-Smith noting in a release that having spoken with President of the Abaco Christian Council, Pastor Edbert Tinker, and Pastor Mario Moxie, Vice President of the Bahamas Christian Council, the consensus was to postpone out of respect for family members, as they feel the object of the remembrance service is to have a ceremonial, proper Christian burial that all loved ones can attend. Now, this considering current COVID-19 emergency order restrictions on movement, mass assembly, and the emphasis on physical distancing make holding ceremonies difficult. Well, bringing us our motivation today is Father Bernard Bean, Rector of Holy Trinity in Barbados.
Hello, friends.
Hello.
We are in challenging times. The world has changed, perhaps forever. But it's amazing that we're also in the greatest season of the life of the church. Yes, friends, it is resurrection time. And while these are challenging times, I want to remind you that Jesus took on the greatest challenge known to mankind. And look how he responded. He rose. No words. He just acted. He rose. I want to remind you that the same spirit that was in Christ Jesus is in us. I know as individuals, we have faced daunting experiences. Sometimes we thought that it was going to be impossible to rise. But look at us. With the help and strength of a good and gracious and faithful God, we rose. And the same God will never leave us, nor will he forsake us. And the same way Jesus rose, the same way we rose from our various challenges, I know that it will not be easy. I know that it will be difficult. But friends, I believe in my heart of hearts that we will rise. Some of us, we have lost loved ones to the situation. Some of us, we are unable to attend the funerals of our loved ones. Some of us, we have lost our jobs. But I want to encourage you to hold on and hang in there. God will be with us, and he will keep us. Yes, friends, make up our minds. Be determined in our attitudes. Be resolved in our spirits that with the help of the Almighty, we will and we must rise. I am Father Bernard Bean of the Holy Trinity Church, Barbados. God bless you, and we will rise.
COVID-19 continues to impact the Bahamas and the world.
The Ministry of Health has confirmed 5 cases of COVID-19 in the Bahamas.
ZNS Network is here to keep you informed on this growing pandemic.
We are in a race against time.
With team coverage, hourly updates, news, and special reports with information that is important to you. ZNS Network is your best choice for COVID-19 coverage. No other station covers the Bahamas better.
Well, our exercise segment this morning targets seniors and the disabled community, and for that we turn to Natasha Brown.
Hi, good morning. I hope you Remember, the stronger and more consistent that you can become and remain at being fit and well, we can win this battle. I am downtown, and we got the perfect routine for you this morning. It's all about our recycled teenagers, and guess what? Those persons who are living with some form of disability. If you are ready, get up and let's start marching. There you go. I am feeling so good this morning, and I hope you are as well. So let's just go ahead and stand in place and start walking. Yeah, it's another day to be alive. And guess what? Feeling excited. So let's keep marching. Keep marching. There you go. For 8 more times. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, side step right here. Side step. There you go. Right here. Great. So let's move forward with it. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, to the back. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, move forward. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, the back. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, last 2 times. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, final 8. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. March in place right here. There you go. Yeah. Woo! Feeling good. 8 more seconds. We're gonna add a tap. 7. Make sure your core is nice and tight. Yeah. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Ready? Here we go. Right here. Tap, 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 tap. Yes. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and hold it right here. Core nice and tight. Take the hands all the way up. Very good. Bring it down. Nice and easy. Let's take it up again. We have 2 more times. Bring it all the way down. Yes. Take it all the way up. Exhale. Final time. Bring it all the way up. Yes, hold it right here. Great. Take the right hand across the chest. For 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Let's switch. Open up. Left hand comes across for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Open up to the side. Take it over the head. Lock at the fingertips. Push up to the roof. For 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Good job. Now, take the right heel forward. Let's sit back into the stretch. Reach across with the left hand as best as you can. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Let's switch. Left heel comes out. Right hand goes across. Hold it. Use the extra hand for just some kind of support. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Right here. Now, just add the arms a little bit right here. It's almost like we're rushing. Yeah. Downtown in Russell Square. Yeah. At one of those drunken parades. There you go. Just nice and easy. Really. Now, press. Right here. You got it. Yeah. 8 more times. 2 and 1.
Well, thank you, Natasha. We now take you on the outside for your daily traffic commute and other morning developments with our Lloyd Allen.
The traffic report is sponsored by Bahamas First. First in insurance. Today, tomorrow.
Well, good morning, Makushla. Good morning, Bahamas. This morning, we're in the area of Gladstone Road, where, of course, BAIC's Farmers Market is in full gear. Of course, a minimal traffic disruption there. But a bigger story this morning, we're at the animal feed mill section of the facility. I'm speaking this morning with Bishop Gregory Cawley, who's talking about this container that was broken into overnight. Now, Mr. Cawley, I understand that your first break-in happened about 2 weeks ago, but last night, that was a serious impact to your supplies.
Yes, thank you very much, Lloyd, and good morning, Bahamas. We are here, as Mr. Allen said, we are the animal feed mill, and this is the one of our operations where we service all of our farmers who have animals. And today we came to this site to witness where this is the second time in just over 2 to 3 weeks that we've had the same incident where individuals broke into the office of the animal feed mill. The first time when it happened, they were able to carry away a substantial amount of cash and made considerable damage to the office. This time, they also went into the office through the same entrance that they did the last time, caused considerable damage also, again, on the inside. They didn't find any money this time, but this time what they did was they break into the container, which we just ordered. If you look at it carefully, the customs seal was still on it, so they have not been inspected by the customs department to give us the release to distribute the feed. And it's just a act of vandalism, I would call it, a senseless vandalism that we are charged with the responsibility to ensure that animals have their feed, just like we are supplying the human element with the fruits and vegetables, fresh fruits and vegetables. We also have the responsibility to make sure that the animals are well kept. So this is going to cause a disruption somewhat in our operation, and but we want to assure the farmers that we have adequate supplies on hand throughout the lockdown and the coming weeks. We have adequate supply on hand to make sure that we satisfy their needs.
Now, obviously, a significant amount of feed on the ground there. Once Customs comes in and completes their assessment, is it your hope that a significant portion of this would be able to be salvaged?
Well, we are going to get some expert advice on whether there may be any contamination, exposure that may render the entire stock unusable. But we will hope, we are optimistically hoping that we are able to save at least what's inside the container. So we're gonna get advice on that, because of course we don't want to expose the animals to any unnecessary health hazard that may be as a result of the exposure of the corn feed.
Now, obviously, with 2 break-ins in the space of a month, are you beefing up security here as well?
Certainly, we're going to have a stern look at our security here at the feed mill. Obviously, it's not working in our favor. So we're going to definitely have to beef up security, whether it means we have to bring in additional resources, whether it be technical or human resources, to ensure that the product are safe. We're going to have to do that.
Well, excellent. And of course, we will be following this story as it unfolds throughout the day. Our lockdown, of course, nationally is expected to take place later on today. Reporting here from the animal feed mill, Gladstone Road, Lloyd Allen for the morning edition. Makushla, back to you in studio.
Well, thanks, Lloyd. When we return, a check on weather.
This weather report is sponsored by Bank of the Bahamas, the bank of solutions.
Well, in our first look at weather, we have a frontal system in the area. We'll get to that in just a while, but outside of our studios, we're under partly sunny skies. Temperature at 79 degrees, the relative humidity 88%. We have easterly winds at 10 miles per hour. The barometric pressure 1,017.4 millibars. That's 30.10 inches, and it is rising. Your temperatures around the islands this morning: Marsh, Abaco at 75, Green Toll Key 76, 76 in Freeport, Grand Bahama, the Berry Islands at 78, Allenstown, Bimini 79 degrees, Harbor Island 78, also Rock Sound, Eleuthera 78 degrees. In Allenstown, Cadalla, we have a temperature of 79. Staniel Key, Kemp's Bay, St. Andrews, also 79 degrees. Fresh Creek in Central Andros at 80 degrees. In San Salvador, 79. Rim Key at 79 degrees. In Ragged Island, 78. Clarence Town, Long Island, Crooked Island, Betsy Bay and Acklands at 78 degrees. Matchitani, Nagua, 79. And the Turks and Caicos Islands also reporting 79 degrees. And your boating forecast for today for all areas of the Bahamas: you can expect the winds to be out of the southeast at 12 to 18 knots, but those winds will start dying off during the nighttime hours. Wave heights initially 3 to 6 feet, gradually subsiding 2 to 4 feet. Low tide this morning at 11:15. High tide will take place at 5:17 this afternoon. And now for your satellite picture, you can see clouds associated with that frontal boundary right across the northwest Bahamas. The front itself somewhat just to the south of the capital. Most of the shower activity associated with this system has dried out overnight. Because last night we had some heavy showers around Grand Bahama, Bimini, and the Abacos, but as we said, most of that has since dissipated. High pressure will remain in control of our weather over the next few days, so we'll see those winds falling off to about 10 to 15 knots throughout the 700 islands. Our forecast for today: some morning clouds, maybe a brief shower, but certainly in the afternoon we expect the sun to come out with a high temperature reaching 86 degrees. And tonight we are going in for clear to partly cloudy conditions, somewhat on the humid side, as those nighttime temperatures going to be around 76 degrees. And extended weather forecast, we're going to have some upper 80s getting near 90 degrees on Monday with a high temperature of 89 degrees. Nighttime temperatures becoming a little bit uncomfortable in that mid-70 range, but cloud-wise, we can expect an abundance of sunshine right into Monday. We'll bring the clouds and the rain back on Tuesday. Makisha?
Oh, thanks, Basil. Some scorching temperatures outside, and the heat's on inside as well with the home videos. Let's take a look in.
Feel like God has somehow forgotten that you are faced with circumstances that you can't get through. Oh, and right now it seems like there's no way out and you're going under. But God's proven time and time again He'll take care of you, and He'll do it again. He'll do it again. If you just take a look at where you are now and where you've been, come through for you. He's the same as then. And you may not know how, may not know when, but He'll do it again. God knows the things that you're going through and how you are hurting. He understands just how your heart has been broken into. Ooh.
But He's the God of the stars, of the sun, of the sea, and He is your Father.
He'll calm the storm. He'll find a way to fix it for you. And He'll do it
Just take a look. Take a look. Where you are now and where you've been. Has he always come through for you? He's the same now as then. God has not changed. You may not know how, you may not know when, but do it.
Well, just a reminder, keep those videos and pictures coming in on how you're passing the time in the government-imposed lockdown, or if you want to salute those on the front line, the number 477-0546. And remember to stay tuned to the ZNS Network, your best choice for local, regional, and international COVID-19 coverage. We're the only station providing you with live radio and television updates throughout the day, giving you up-to-the-minute information. Our coverage continues at 10 on radio, and then at 2 on the television network. Good morning, everyone.
COVID-19 continues to impact the Bahamas and the world.
The Ministry of Health has confirmed 5 cases of COVID-19 in the Bahamas.
ZNS Network is here to keep you informed on this growing pandemic.
We are in a race against time.
With team coverage, hourly updates, news, and special reports with information that is important to you.